Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is August 25, 2024. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Please subscribe. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Finn Fordham, Part Two. Where in the heck you calling in from, Finn?
I'm in Oxford today at
How
home.
cool. How cool is that? It's a real honor and a pleasure. And the first question I wanted to go into your thoughts on what you think is the first human invention. And I'll just set it up a little because, people say all kinds of things,
Mm.
tools, language. And over the years, I thought the really interesting one was the other,
Ah,
knowing that there's another person because the kid sees the mother's eyes, and then in their eyes it's a mirror, and then she feeds them milk, or she feeds the kid milk, and then when does the kid realize that they're different than someone else? So
yeah,
my friend says the other, and then my other friend says it's the gaze. Maybe
yeah,
it's the gaze is the first sort of human invention. But here's the one I wanted to, you can
yeah.
react however, but it's theater of the absurd. Augusto Boal. He said the first human invention is theater. That
Oh,
sort of encapsulates everything that,
wow.
we invented. So just your thoughts. What do you think the first human invention was?
Mm. Well, it can't be something that's sort of natural to the body, really, can it? So I would exclude the gaze,
Yeah.
um, and it's got to be something out external to the body. But it is so amazing to think about human beings moving from not having language to having language,
Yeah.
because it somehow means that language evolved and and had to be it had to be crafted in some way, like a tool. I do like the idea that language is a tool,
Yes.
but I don't know whether tools came first. I mean, I don't know whether rocks, you know, hitting things with rocks and sharpening rocks to cut things came before language. I just don't know that. Um, but if I think the tools are inventions, so they come, and if they come before language, then they're first. But I find it more interesting to think about language being this sort of discovery as a tool, which then gets sharpened and developed and evolves. And it must have evolved pretty fast, and then got to a sort of top level, and then stopped and didn't really go any further. Um, yeah. So
That's really good, Finn, because look at just metaphorically, like McLuhan says, all words are metaphoric.
yeah.
All language metaphoric? If all words are metaphoric, I don't know. But basically,
Mm,
when you said they discovered the rock and sharpened it, and then you
mm.
said they discovered language and sharpened it.
Yeah. We had to have
So
a
it's like,
metaphor for
what came first, the sharpening of the rock or the sharpening of the
yeah.
grunt that said, "There's a good rock over there, dude. Let's go sharpen it."
Yeah. And also that just indicates that if I say language is a tool,
Yeah,
that's definitely metaphorical to
yeah,
say it's a tool. But we've refined language to the extent that we treat language, we want language not to be a tool. Um, that kind of aesthetic idea
yeah,
that language mustn't have a purpose other
yeah,
than its own sort of glory somehow.
yeah,
And you could definitely say that Finnegan's Wake is a kind of aesthetic thing that is unwilling to serve any particular purpose.
yeah,
That idea that art shouldn't serve any purpose because then it will be propaganda. And
yeah,
in which case it's quite a strange idea that you're preventing language being a tool when you do that. It's like
yeah,
you're so used to language being sort of reduced to being instrumentalized as a tool. You want it to somehow be above that,
yeah,
and I think it's very difficult actually to get above it. I think it's always going to be used for something.
yeah.
Anyway, yes.
Beautiful, because it also brought up, as you were talking, that
Mm,
second part was I'm writing an essay, Can Art Stop War? And
Mm,
basic I got
mm,
all this press from my Finnegan's Wake group being 28 years, and my friend goes, "Well, what are you gonna do with your fame now?" And I goes, "Write an article that says that Joyce was writing a manifesto for peace." Because
yeah,
sometimes I mean, how many times has this happened? You're reading Finnegan's Wake, and then you realize there's a real world out there. What am I reading this stuff for? And it's happened once in about 30 years. I went like,
mm,
and then all the other times I'm
yeah,
reading it and it's giving me so much insight to the world
yeah,
and what to do and
yeah,
how to be active and participate, you
yeah,
know, like your first answer in part one was what's the best thing for a human being is purpose. But then
yeah.
your wife walked in, you go, well, my wife, that was a classic moment. You know, your purpose,
Yeah.
philosophical, but it is in all its glory. So this is
Mm,
ju this is what I left out, uh,
mm,
somehow, a question, and it is when we were talking about intention in your writing and the
mm,
intention in Joyce's writing. And
mm.
I usually followed it with a question that got left out somehow is Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your reader when you're writing your book? Like your great book, lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. How much were you thinking of your reader when you were writing it?
Yeah, quite a lot actually, because
Yeah,
I really want to communicate something.
yeah.
So I often take the role of a reader reading my own work, and I wonder how they're going to respond to what it is that I'm writing. Are they going to understand it? Are they going to be amused by it? Are they going to be interested by it? For sure, I have to sort of preempt, predict, imagine other readers responding. Yeah. Um, I don't. It's not the only thing I'm thinking about. I'm also thinking
Right,
about the object that I'm writing about. Finnegan's
right.
Wake itself. I mean, I love that object, Finnegan's Wake. So I'm devoted to it, devoting time to it, and thinking about it. Um,
But do
but
you
I
consider
want to meet be a medium for that book.
medium, yeah. But do
People.
you consider that book to be academic, pop culture, or a mixture, or one or the other more? What was your like, did you have to go to a publisher and go, "Man, I've got this great idea," and you had to sell it to them as what?
Yeah. Um, How did I do that with the publisher? Um, I mean, there was 20 years ago or so a market for books on Finnegan's Wake. Um, I think I must have managed to get myself into a position where the publisher couldn't refuse. Um,
Well, good
so
going. I think you feel it's a success, right? That's a great book.
oh well,
In the
that's very kind. That's really really kind. I mean, it's yeah. I remember while I was doing my PhD, I had a great friend doing a philosophy PhD, and I said, I think I just really want to popularize Finnegan's Wake.
There you go.
And he
Beautiful.
said, how to make it? And it's like he was sending me a warning sign. Don't why pursue popularity just as an end in itself?
Oh, wow,
And
what advice.
and what what limit are you going to put to that? How are you
Yeah,
going to make it super popular? Are you going to actually
yeah.
undermine it by trying to make out that it's an easy, popular, lovely little thing. Um, so I took that as a sort of bit of advice. Be wary. You can be enthusiastic and encourage people to read and enjoy something, but you don't want to sell it short or yeah.
Good. So then the same question for your take on studying Joyce as much as you had. What role did the reader play in Joyce's creative process?
Well, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one because it does look as though he didn't care. I mean, he wasn't worried. He didn't have to worry. Um, he it's. I mean, he said somewhere, anecdotally, I can do anything I want with language, and that's not the same as saying, I can make language do anything.
Yeah.
It's saying I can do anything with language that I want. So what
Yeah.
did he want?
Yeah.
And you kind of see him in the act of doing what he wants, actually,
Yeah.
because the number of different games, the number of different styles, the amount of language he's aware of shows that he can do whatever it is that he wants. Do we understand what it is he wants? Not really. I don't really understand what he wants. I try and work it out. I try and get close to it. Um, I think he's not going to try to determine our reactions as readers. Um, except in a very general sense, he wants a sense of joy and wonder
Yeah.
and thrill and excitement and at the I don't know the world of language that we live in. But he did also anecdotally again say you can't predict the effect that your words will have on the world,
Right.
and whatever readers do with it, it's up to them.
Yeah.
And there's so much. That's a very simple truth. Whether he said it or not, we're not quite sure. But it really means that he's not going to be trying to determine how we react. He's
Yeah.
just going to do. He's just going to do something,
Yeah.
and then the chemistry with different readers in different ways, and it'll be taken forward in different ways, and that's that. And yeah,
That's, McLuhan's user is the content.
right,
Mid-career, he updated Medium and Massage. He says,
right,
"Nope, it's not that anymore, it's user as a content." And I
yeah.
just gave this lecture on Frank Zappa the other day, and,
Well,
there's I was studying because it was in a Masonic lodge, and, do you know that and so I said, there's a theory they bumped Mozart off because he revealed the Masonics, uh,
yes,
secrets in the
in the
magic.
magic flute.
And then I says, "Well, Fre they were my friend at Stanford, he's writing his PhD on how, the secret police invented MK Ultra in America by reading Finnegan's Wake, and also the Masons." And I mean, it sounds kooky, but whatever. The
Yeah,
Masons were pissed because, I mean, you might heard this, I don't know my source, that Joyce was hanging out with the Masons and he revealed some of their secrets in the wake.
yeah,
Have you ever heard
yeah.
that one?
Um, uh, n- n- yeah, of course, there's the trowel. Uh,
Yeah,
Finnegan as a builder, he's a master mason.
yeah,
Goodly trowel, and overall. So that's part of the Masonic paraphernalia in their
right,
strange rituals. But also Leopold Bloom in Ulysses is a Freemason, and he kind of gets Stephen out of trouble because he
yeah,
meets a fellow Freemason at the end of the Circe episode, and
yeah.
they kind of wink and nudge to each other.
But at least
I'm on the square, you're on the square. So that was Joyce revealing things. He was Edward VII as well. Joyce referenced the fact that the King of England was a Freemason, also in Circe. So
but
yeah,
at least they didn't bump Joyce off for revealing Mason secrets.
I know. I'd love to know whether any Freemason was cross
Right, right.
with what he was doing, or whether they just went, "Oh, never mind. It's all
Never
good.
mind.
It's
But
good
but that
advertising for us."
but that's again this intent, thinking of the reader and your consumer.
Yeah.
My consumer are my producers, whatever that great line is.
Yes.
But this one is I heard, and I love it because you clarify all these anecdotes that I hear and then repeat, and then they go, "That's bullshit."
Yes.
Then I go to these wake groups and they go, "That's impossible." Oh, I'll
Yeah.
tell you another one too that's
Yeah.
really funny. But first, this one is Joyce got good reviews or some good reviews for Ulysses. So then he says, "I'll show you." So he sat on the toilet for 17 years and farted out Finnegan's Wake. Now,
Yeah.
the basic question is, was the wake at all reactionary to the reviews of Ulysses? Was it I mean, yeah, was
Hmm.
that? that kind of true that he had some kind of impulse from how Ulysses was received in making the wake?
Um, so there is again, this is in a letter, I think, where he says, I'm looking at the reviews of Ulysses, and I've noticed that all the critics have missed something, and I'm
Yeah.
going to write about what it is they've missed.
There you go. See? That's what it
And
is.
he, very annoyingly, he doesn't say what it is they've missed. So
Thank
again,
God.
we're stuck trying to work out what it was. But I have a theory
Yeah.
that, uh, and I do question my own theory, but that what critics missed out on was the kind of speculation and suggestion of kind of sexual feelings towards younger women, including his own daughter.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think Leopold Bloom has those feelings, but I do think Joyce lays a trail of
Yeah.
breadcrumbs that lead us towards suspicion of
Yeah.
it. And but I don't. I think if Bloom did have those feelings, we would see them because we are in his consciousness.
Yeah.
Now, you could say he has those feelings unconsciously, but then you're just again in a speculative world because if somebody has something unconsciously, you can make it up what they have because
Yeah.
they don't even know it themselves.
It's
But
totally that's what life's all about is making that up. Because
what?
we're gonna have all these expert tell you how to think.
Yes, yes, no, no. I don't like people telling me what's in my unconscious because if I don't know, how are they going to know? But Bloom has these sort of feelings, and Joyce thinks nobody's noticed this,
Yeah,
and now I'm going to keep working on it,
yeah,
and that is a theme of Finnegan's Wake for sure.
yeah.
The kind of
That's
again the older man, younger
yeah,
woman, shading into shading
yeah,
relationship. It is strong in Finnegan's Wake. So I think that's one strand that kind of carries on in a form of reaction, if you like.
yeah,
It is a reaction of deepening it, taking it further.
yeah.
Then there's that whole lot.
I wish you should come to the New York. I want you to do a workshop at the New York Finnegan's Wake Reading Club.
I'd,
They're so intellectual, but they are so New York. They like
I'd
you're
love to.
they argue and I mean, but
Yeah,
they mean well. But
yeah,
it's just like my friend said, I'm not an asshole. I'm from New York. It's just the way
yeah,
they are. But they
yeah,
inevitably they always go back to the incest thing. I goes, you're all literary, you're a literati, you're highbrow, and they're always falling back to the
yeah,
incest, this and that. But there's
yeah,
two Quickie McLuhan things you says. You know, you don't want to believe your own theories all the time. That's McLuhan said, you mean my whole fallacy is wrong? And he said it as a
nice.
question, but
Yeah.
Woody Allen had him say it in Annie Hall as a statement. So he
Ah,
flipped to McLuhan, but McLuhan's line applies. A half a truth is still a lot of a truth.
yeah.
So so here's I love the breadcrumbs line too, but here's the other one that really got me in trouble. In fact, one of the great Joyceans of Venice, California, quit our group because I said this. I says, I heard from the New York Finnegan's Wake group, this was years ago before Zoom, that Nora was not pissed at Joyce for going to see prostitutes, but she was pissed when he went and saw mediums.
Oh my
You
God.
ever hear you ever hear that one?
No, no, I
Now,
haven't heard of that.
would you believe it could be true?
No, I don't like to think it's true. I
Right.
mean, anything's possible. That would be a dangerous truth for me. I'd like.
Yeah,
I mean, I think if he did go to mediums, he wouldn't take it very seriously for very long.
yeah.
But he's obviously up for exploring everything and anything.
But then
Um,
some people say he's kind of pro Blavatsky, and some people go, no, he was anti Blavatsky.
yeah, I'm afraid I'm in the anti group. I
Yeah,
am.
anti.
I
Yeah,
am. I am. I'm not. I love his throwaway remark about the only spirit that exists is the esprit de l'escalier,
yeah,
which the esprit de l'escalier is the regret that you feel when you haven't said the thing you wish you'd said at the party where somebody was rude to you, and if only you'd had the right comeback.
oh my
So
God.
so
Yeah,
that's because it's the spirit of the staircase. It's what you think as you're walking down the staircase
yeah,
away from the event, and it's about regret. Like that's the only spirit that exists. And for me, that indicates Joyce is an out and out materialist.
yeah,
Of the there's not even there are no spirits. There aren't really souls. Um, um, and so he's not going to be into table turning mediumistic uh,
yeah,
type stuff or automatic writing in touch with Yeatsian spirits.
yeah,
But I know that this people are invested on either side of this argument very much,
yeah. Okay,
because it puts him in the Yeats camp,
right, right.
which matters to people, and it puts him in the spiritual, um, sort of even surrealist camp as well of automatic
Yeah.
writings. I understand where that's coming from, but I
Yeah,
don't
so
agree with it.
there's one more. This is great because I can knock these all out of the park because you're a very articulate, but you know to have fun
Right.
with this. You're
But
like,
then,
"There's no way, that's not predictive," Joyce is not but you're helpful. The one thing you said about regrets is,
mm,
Bob Dylan learned from the Bible. Don't ever tell anyone everything you know. So, when you're like at a party, like we're at a cocktail party, we're talking about Finnegan's Wake. I want to tell you everything I know, and I want you to tell me everything you know.
yeah,
And like, oh, you regret it. You go, oh, I forgot to tell him this one. Oh
yeah,
no. But here's
yeah.
the camp one. Are you in the camp that syphilis did affect Joyce, or he did not, his writing?
Well, I mean, I think that the question is, did syphilis affect him?
Yeah, that's what I
And
mean. Yeah.
uh, I don't know. I don't know.
You you don't take you don't take a leaning more towards one or the other.
Not really, not
Okay.
really. I mean, I've never been that convinced by the evidence.
Yeah.
Um, that the fact that he took certain forms of medication,
Yeah.
showed that he had syphilis. Um, the fact that he had eye problems, I don't think any of those are first causes,
Yeah.
uh, final causes rather of
Yeah.
syphilis. So I don't like seeing them being used as evidence that he had it.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and there's, you know, he says things, the whatever spark of creativity I've had has been inherited by my daughter and has started a fire in her brain. Now that gets read as a confession of syphilis,
Yeah.
i.e. the fire, the spark, the hot, infection which gets inherited and passed on, the worm. Um, but we're back to the world of metaphor. Joyce
Yeah.
was just being metaphorical about himself and his creativity.
Yeah.
You can't just go from that and say it's a metaphor for syphilis.
Yeah.
Um, so
But
yeah.
then
So
are
then
you
then
go
then would it have affected his writing?
Yeah.
So no, not
Yeah.
really. I mean, what affected his writing was his unfucking believable memory.
Yeah. There
It's
you
just
go.
his
That's the one.
memory,
Yeah.
and that's what mattered because lots of people have syphilis. Not very many of them write Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, now, but let's go back to you for a second with you, and we're going to get into the difference between art and science. I don't want to start that yet, but since your dad was someone you looked up to, do you think your smarts, your success is 50-50 from your dad, DNA, nature and nurture? I know it's a binary, it's stupid, but just do you lean a little more that you got it from the DNA of your mom and dad, or did you get it more, a little more from the way they raised you?
So it's a question that makes me feel uncomfortable
Yeah,
because because and I'm going to say I don't know,
that's fine.
but I also think it does look sometimes as though intelligence is inherited.
Yeah,
I like and it's inherited biologically, but that makes me feel very uncomfortable talking like that
yeah,
because it's this sort of deterministic aspect
yeah,
to
d yeah,
human biology, um, and I mean all sorts of things happen in your life which
yeah,
shape how your intelligence, whatever it is you've got, expresses itself. And so everyone gets dealt a different hand,
yeah.
but everybody plays in a different game.
Yeah, most people I go, "Did you," when they say something really insightful, I goes, "Did you get that on your own or more or from your parents, how they raised you?" Sometimes feel like, "Well, I wanna take the pride that I got that on my own. I didn't
Yeah,
get," some of them wanna go, "No, I got it from my parents." So
yeah,
then I mean, don't both your parents lived kinda long, didn't they? Didn't they,
yeah. They lived to they 85 and 83, but they both had Alzheimer's in the
I know, but
last
that's,
5 or 10 years.
the normal American male lives 74 and female lives 84, so they live long. This is another little question in that regard. Do you think longevity, just the body, you say you're a materialist, the body living, is it more lifestyle choice or more DNA? And I know it's both, and you don't have to, you could say, I don't know, but I'm just saying if you have a hunch, is it a little more either way?
Yeah, you do things in your life that impact on your chances of living for sure, and your
Yeah,
chances of comfort. But we're only just beginning to understand the role of inherited diseases. We know now that there are cancers that are genetically inherited that you can nip in the bud if you get there early enough.
yeah,
We know that there's predisposition to certain diseases for sure. Like I've got a predisposition to gout, which
yeah,
comes from which is a genetic inheritance. It's not
yeah,
lifestyle. I think people have always claimed things are lifestyle in order to moralize certain behaviors.
yeah,
So, you can look at somebody who's unwell and say they're unwell because of this lifestyle, and then you moralize the lifestyle. And instead of saying maybe it's nothing to do with their lifestyle, maybe it's just
but
some
maybe,
inherited thing.
yeah,
So I'm on the side of kind of trying to not moralize people's conditions because
that's good.
I'm a liberal, tolerant type.
Yeah, that
Um,
is good. Because
you
when
know,
people are overweight or they're alcoholics, you go, "You don't have willpower." And it's like, "It might be in my DNA, give it
yeah,
up."
absolutely. No, there's definitely something about addiction which
Yeah.
looks like it might be inherited or you know built up from early years when it's nothing to do with you. Hmm.
Yeah, we're addicted to the wake. Is that should we go
Yeah,
to
no problem.
AA? No,
Could
should
be.
we go to FW?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but now, Finn, this is a line, what is from Portrait. Well, oh life, I go to you to encounter for the millionth time the reality of experience and to forge in the smithy of my soul the uncreated conscience of my race. Now, that's really, I'm after the last phrase,
Yeah.
the uncreated consciousness of my race. Is that similar to the Duchamp question? Yeah, how much are you thinking of your reader, your consumer? Or what does the uncreated conscience of my race mean to you or Joyce?
Yeah, so this is Joyce ironizing Stephen's rather hubristic dream of being a Shelleyan poet, the unacknowledged legislators of mankind is of a poet. And I think Stephen has absorbed that idea and sees artists as the people who create consciences
Yeah.
moral conscience.
Yeah.
It's the highest um, role and function that an artist could have
Yeah.
to do that. And I I I I I find it difficult to stomach, but I mean, I don't really have that ambition myself. But but so I can't quite take it seriously. And
Yes.
so I assume that Joyce is ironizing Stephen. On the other hand, I think Joyce probably did take it seriously sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think he looked at someone like Shakespeare or Dante and he thought they were artists who did create or manage to
Yeah.
produce a kind of conscience for their people. But then it's
Yeah.
also a very nationalistic idea
Yeah.
as well. It's like culture is conscience. It's where conscience is created and produced.
Oh my
Such,
God, that
such an
is
incre- it's
that's
making it's making you a prophet, basically. It's making you Moses or Jesus. Um, yeah, that's how far he's gone. So
yeah, you could get laid in the 60s if you asked a girl, "Wanna come over to my apartment and read The Prophet?"
yeah, Khalil
Khalil
Gibran.
Gibran, you know?
Yeah,
But that aside, it reminded me of, you know, Shane McGowan. Did you see his funeral when they held the wake up like the host?
yes,
Is
yes,
that
that's
ama
wonderful. That's
so,
wonderful.
I mean, talk about a conscious I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but it's like this he started getting fed beers when he was a kid. So
Ah,
then he's an alcoholic. Well, isn't his culture blame that made him an alcoholic? And
yeah,
then, our friend was, said, he their relative delivered the beers to Shane's, hotel room once, and
yeah,
it was 10 beers,
yeah,
and he brought him in, and it was just Shane alone, and the kid said, "Oh, are you having a party?" And he goes, "No, I'm working."
yeah.
So, I mean, that culture, and then did you see the movie, Crock of Gold, the documentary on Shane?
No, I
Oh,
must.
it's worth
Yeah,
seeing, Finn,
yeah,
because and all your students would love it because the filmmaker is great. I forgot his name. He's a really good filmmaker, and he slips in the James Joyce. I think it's 16 millimeter footage. Whatever, if you do you know if it's 16 or 35 millimeter footage of Joyce walking down the street with
yeah,
Nora? It's a
yeah.
famous clip.
Seen it.
Like we
Yeah,
have film of
yeah,
Joyce, but it's
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
great the way he slips it in. And if you're a Joycean, you go, "That's fucking."
Nice. That's
But
nice. Definitely check that
but
out.
here's the other one I have to ask, and why hasn't this happened? Because, I'm not an AI guy, but all these kids you teach are AI people.
Yeah,
Why hasn't any Joycean smart, tech kid taken the 10 minutes of Joyce reading the Wake, or what is it, 8 minutes, and made Joyce read the whole Wake?
wow, lovely
That's
idea.
it. Come
That's
on,
wonderful.
it's
Yeah,
a simple they can do it.
that's a very good
And
idea.
I know, it's like, why not? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
yeah,
They did it to a Zappa article that he
yeah.
wrote, and
Wow.
I was like, "That sounds like Frank." Well, maybe it did, but it was just a different way to consume the information, and a lot of my friends said it sounded like it was him,
So I
you know?
suppose the difficulty would be getting sampling the voice is fine, and
Yeah,
then you can sample the voice and get the voice to say anything
yeah,
in English, whatever.
yeah,
However, these are words that have never been said.
yeah.
Like the word abnihilization.
Oh my god, you have ESP. I was gonna ask you about that.
I mean, uh, how is this AI person going to say
Right,
abnihilization
right,
in a Joycean way?
right.
Or how are they even going to say river run? It's like maybe it will work. That's fine. Have you
But
seen the form of Joyce? The bust of Joyce in Stephen's Green in Dublin.
I haven't seen I've seen a picture of it, yeah.
Yeah, but they've manipulated. They've made a film of the bust speaking.
Oh, I've showed that at my lecture once. Yeah,
Cool.
I like that
Yeah,
because
I
it
mean,
helps it helps people
Yeah,
get a visual. I mean, they
yeah,
say that the sight is a more dominant sense,
yeah,
eye and ear.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. You yes, yes.
but I mean, there's Joyce on the big screen right now, and with Gabriel playing Beckett. Have you seen that?
I have,
Divine.
yeah,
How
yeah.
is it?
Oh, well, I thought it was great actually.
And
I
it
and
and Joyce comes off good?
yeah, yeah, he does actually. He's
Oh,
played by
good.
the guy who
I'm
plays
glad to hear.
Littlefinger. The guy who plays Littlefinger in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Um, he
Who,
plays
by the way, the Little Thrones writer is a Joycean.
no
Oh,
J.R.R.
yeah,
Martin.
it's dude, it is endless how
Right.
many pop culture people
Yeah.
are Joycean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Ryan Ryan Johnson,
Yeah.
Nights Out,
Right.
I mean, it is if you go to Peter Quadrino's, Pantheon article, his
Yeah.
surveys, but
Cool.
I mean, it's like it's easy for us to go Anthony Burgess and,
Yeah.
Campbell and blah, 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 but I mean, it
Yeah.
is funny how
Cool.
many.
Patty Smith.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny, it's
Good.
great, it
Good. Cool.
seeps in.
Happy with that. Yes. So Joy in the Gabriel Byrne Beckett film, Joyce is a good intellectual. He kind of sits there grumpily, saying sort of dry, profound, annoying things.
Yeah.
He's grumpy. I like it. Yeah.
In
Um,
fact, I'm sorry to go off on so many tangents, but
mm,
Writer's Journey by Christopher Vogler, the 2nd edition is a must. You gotta get it's a how to write a screenplay. So he's
cool.
a Campbellite.
Yeah.
He just took Campbell and applied it to screenwriting,
Uh,
and then he in the 2nd edition, he tells how Hollywood kind of dissed him because this is when George Lucas was mining right hero's
Campbell.
journey to make Star Wars.
Of
And
course.
so Star Wars and Jaws turned Hollywood into a teenage boy business.
Huh.
And then he sort of says, well, we can do this. So they'd say, you ruined Hollywood. You turn, and it needed ruining. So I always say my theory is James Joyce ruined Hollywood, and it
Yeah.
needed to be ruined through Christopher Vogler's screenwriting book, a la just Joseph Campbell, who was
Yeah.
the ultimate
Yeah.
Joycean. I mean,
Yeah.
Campbell was like, you
Yeah.
know.
Absolutely. No, I love
Okay,
that
so
connection.
did
Mm.
you finish? Did you finish your uncredited conscious of my race? I'm sorry, I went.
The
We
uncreated
went.
content of my race. Yeah. The bit I really like in that is him saying, "I go for the millionth time to experience the reality to what is it? Something the reality of experience? Or
The
sorry,
it's like
experience."
I go to encounter for the millionth time the reality of experience.
That's it. That's it. I just love that actually.
Yeah,
I really
that's a
love that. That's a beautiful idea.
yeah,
Um, and this idea of I go again,
yeah,
and that each instant of your life you are encountering it, and
yeah,
it's the reality of it. I think that's beautiful.
yeah. I love your appreciation of Joyce because it's really grounded, especially because I see it. You want to be a theater director. Here's another thing: taking Joyce's 3 breakdowns and turning him into breakthroughs.
Mm,
1, he wanted to be Ibsen, so he
mm,
invented a new type of theater.
mm,
2, he wanted to be a great singer, so he
mhm.
invented literature as song.
Yeah,
3, he's going blind, so he flipped the eye into an ear experience.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, 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 yeah. The things that you fail to do, you can repurpose into
that's
something else.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here's Milan Kundera, The Unbearable Likeness of Being. This is why I love writing, because the character that I'm writing about can go further than I can. Yeah,
Ah,
that sounds beautiful, romantic, and poetic, Finn, but that's like being a materialist. How can I can put things with an ink pen on paper? How can it go further?
mm. How can it go further than sorry than reality
Well,
and
yeah, I mean,
further than
he's
I can go?
talking metaphorically. This is why I
Yeah,
love writing because the character that I'm
mm,
writing about can go further than I can.
yeah, uh, yeah. But that's true, isn't it? That's exactly right. That's, I mean, that's what that's how the imagination frees you up.
Right.
Um, and you know, somebody in a fiction can do the things that you can't do. Um, though it is interesting in which the characters that he portrays are people who can't do the things that Joyce can do. That he restricts his characters from being able to do anything. In Dubliners, and he sort of holds on to that sort of reality, that limitation of reality, the kind of groundedness, um, and but with Ulysses, with Bloom and Circe in particular, he sends Bloom off into fantasy world. Whether they're his fantasies or social fantasies doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
He's just able to break the bonds of the limitations of one's own personality and of reality. And it's the same with Finnegan's Wake, I suppose. He has this character, this sort of everyman, who is both an ordinary person living in an ordinary place in an ordinary city, who is nevertheless also all people and throughout time and throughout history. And that's the imaginative leap, or the leap of the imagination, which Milan Kundera seems to me is talking about.
Yeah.
It's what, and yeah.
Is Finnegan's Wake true?
Oh, that's fiendish. What is the truth? Says jesting Pilate. Um, I, I, I mean, I don't know what true is. To be honest, can't answer that.
But you
Um,
know, and the other thing you said in part one that really got me was, what new tool do you suggest, or what tool do you gravitate towards? And you
mm,
said honesty.
oh,
That
honestly,
was really heavy because, that's what do people do? They make shit up. I mean, that was
yeah,
etymology,
yeah.
the word I can't pronunciate because I got a good education. Abnilialization
Realization.
of the atom.
Yes,
I understand that to mean make something out of nothing.
definitely, definitely. Yes, beautiful.
So if you're making stuff up, then how can that be true? I
Yeah,
mean, it can be true. It's more true than true, I guess.
yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, you're being like, again, you go back, your dad is an engineer. He doesn't go,
Mm.
yeah, that's true. He goes, I can prove this true. And then you go into literature and go, well, no, this is true, Dad.
Well, all right, all right. I'll have a go. I'll have a go. So, um, towards the end of writing Finnegan's Wake, Joyce was saying something like, "The book has as much reality to me as shaving."
Yeah.
Day, and that's a bit of reality. Shaving every day, kind of looking at yourself in the mirror, doing something with your hands, changing your look,
Yeah.
and then there's Finnegan's Wake sort of next to it that he's making, and it's a sort of different order of reality, but it coexists with the reality in which he's shaving.
Yeah.
And so uh, in the reality in which he's shaving, there's truth. There's like, I'm shaving, it's true.
Yeah.
In And then in the book, Finnegan's Wake, which is this other order of reality that coexists with our order,
Yeah.
there is it's got its own truths.
Yeah.
It can be true to itself.
Yeah.
You know, what you just quoted about Milan Kundera saying, what
Yeah.
I love about fiction is being able to take my um, characters into places that I can't go, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
In a way, that's what fiction is. You're
Yeah.
able to take truth into places that truth can't normally go, but it
Yeah.
will still be a kind of truth.
Yeah.
And I think all fictions create a different realms of truth in which they are true, even if they're not true alongside the reality where we're shaving, because they're fictions, they're still true inside them.
Yeah.
And for me, if I read like a crappy detective story thing, it's got a realm of truth which I find trivial. But I mean, I read the story, I'm interested in it. But Finnegan's Wake is a different order of truth again from that. It's its own genre.
Yeah.
All fictions create their own realms of truth. All genre fictions follow certain rules, that are determining the forms of truth. And Finnegan's Wake is just its own
Yeah.
type of truth, and that's why I love it, because it's introduced a different form of truth into our world, and
Yeah.
our world is made up of lots of regimes of truth, um, uh, some of which we share, some of which we don't, some of which we don't know about because they're other people's truths, they're fictions, etc. But Finnegan's Wake is so obviously just this different new realm, and that's art. Art creates new realms of truth to expand the regimes of truth that we're limited to.
Yeah. So well put, Finn. You know, the other thing I like about having this as a Zoom is I can understand that you're done talking because of your eyes.
Oh,
Your
really?
eyes communicate. Okay, I'm done. Now you can cut in on me because I'm
Oh,
really
I
mad.
know that.
I'm so excited talking with you. I want to cut you off every other second. But that was what you said was Faulkner. Sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism.
Oh,
You
God, almost certainly. Oh, yeah. I
But here,
definitely agree with
here,
that.
here, now it's like 25 years of Matrix. I never watched the film. I don't know about it, but I know the kid who starred in the Matrix came in our bookstore as soon as it came out, and he bought every McLuhan book.
Yeah,
Keanu Reeves, because
yeah,
they're have those two brothers who are now sisters. Are heavy, right? They know what they were doing writing for Hollywood, and so
yeah.
I saw a T-shirt once. It said The Matrix is a documentary. They dropped I can't even say his name right. Baudrillard.
OGR.
But
Yeah,
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 they
yeah,
dropped his name more than McLuhan when they said they were writing it.
yeah.
He suggests it does no good to point out the truth from within a system that denies or suppresses reality.
Mm.
Is that kind of what you were touching on or different?
I don't want to mystify our relations to reality and truth. I think we're more in touch with concepts of the true and the real than 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 many people want to let on.
Yeah,
So I'm sort of not a Platonist.
yeah,
I don't really like the idea that you can only get to the real through a philosopher who will tear the veil away from you. I mean, that's a very attractive role
yeah.
for teachers, especially. It gives us a job. You think you know the reality? No, you don't. Well, listen to me. I will tell you. Um, and I think that whole movement, that sort of Platonic movement, which is definitely the Matrix for sure. I
Yeah,
mean, the Matrix is this paranoid narrative
yeah,
that is telling us all that everything we think we know is not true, and
yeah,
what all of our perceptions are determined by some other power that's sucking the blood, the life out of us. I mean, it's a very dramatic story, but I don't
yeah,
think it's reality. I think reality consists of lots of people who are just managing to work out what's going on around them in the world. And
yeah,
if anything, people, I would like to teach in the way I teach people to have confidence in their sense of reality. And so Baudrillard is not the man for me
yeah,
because he's very much kind of your sense of the real is completely determined by
yeah,
imagery and mediatization and all of that. Um, Now, I know what I'm saying is probably quite unpopular, really, in our political world, because we do see the most appalling beliefs widespread that are leading people to sign up to the maddest political programs.
amazing.
I mean, and so you think, God, people are so deluded. They are. They're, it's not that they're stupid or they're morons. It's just that they've been led by the nose into these terrible, terrible beliefs. Um, but I think I don't know. I know that that is a problem, but I also think that that's we don't want to overestimate that as a kind of human weakness.
I love
Um,
that you said that because I hate when people go, "People are stupid." It's like,
yeah,
no, no, deluded is a better word to say than the
yeah,
stupid into it. In fact, Zappa said stupidity is the building block of the universe. They think it's oxygen. If you don't know, it's like not knowing. That's what you think you know, and then you have to unlearn things
yeah,
because you're so set. But this is, pulling the curtain back was really good because there's a McLuhan-esque way to reinterpret the Wizard of Oz to the Wizard of Us. Because
yes,
what is Dorothy told to go get? Well, first of all, evil witch wants to kill her dog at the beginning. Now
yes,
dig what the dog represents. She's told, "Go get the broom and then the wizard will help you." Well, what is the broom? The skywriting utensil. The
uh-huh,
advertisers create the disease and offer the cure. So she brings the broom to the wizard. You're the teacher, you're gonna, but no, really what you are is the dog. Toto is the atomic dog. He pulls the curtain back and reveals the
yeah,
makings of
yes,
the wizard. So it's really the Wizard of Us
yes,
instead of the
nice,
Wizard of Oz. And
I
then it
see,
goes to, Mallarmé. You brought up detective novel. That was great because Mallarmé in The Symbolists got
yeah,
everything they know from Edgar Allan Poe. He
right,
invented the detective novel, which is
yeah,
effects precede causes,
yeah.
reasoning backwards. In
Say that
order
again,
to,
sorry.
he invented effects precede causes.
Yeah,
And it's called reasoning backwards.
yeah,
I'm only going to give you so much information, and then you're going to fill it in, and that's going to swoop you into going, "Oh, I love this." And
yeah,
that's what Mahler may learn. Don't paint the painting, paint the effect you want.
wow, yes,
And that's effects precede causes throughout the wake. That's what
yes,
he's doing. He's doing effects precede causes. We kind of go, "Oh, that's predictive."
yeah,
John Gordon doesn't want, a plot summary of Finnegan's Wake. When I interviewed him, he doesn't want people to say, "Oh, Joyce predicted email."
right.
There's certain ones that do that. And the other funny observation, Finn, that I've observed, a lot of Finnegan's Wake reading club people are retired engineers. Because they're so linear and they've
Yeah,
had this 40 years of linearness, and they're
yeah,
like, "I still wanna be
everything's great.
linear." Then
Yeah,
they think, "Oh, I'm going to what's that word? Decrypt
deconstructible.
a crypto." They think they're gonna decode the wake or,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I'm missing the word, but it's funny because my last name is a deciphering machine in Russia.
What?
It's called they
Delta?
yeah, they decipher things, codes.
Yeah.
And so then they really freak out when I go, "Oh, McLuhan broke the Finnegan's Wake code," and they go, "No, he didn't." They Joyceans hate McLuhan, and McLuhanites hate that Joyce loved the Wake. So that
Ah,
that tells you something right there. Okay, so now to Buñuel and, in this quest for truth. I'm
yeah.
for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it.
Mm,
What
mm.
do you think of that line?
Oh, it's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. I mean, well, it makes me think of my brother, my dear brother Cato, who uh, he became Christian for a bit, and it helped him sorted things out in lots of ways, and but I didn't find it that easy to I was pretty close to him, and I was skeptical. He was about 20, I was about 17, um, and he's stopped being Christian since then. But for a while he was Christian, and I remember talking about it with my grandfather, and saying, "Well, this is interesting, isn't it? Because Cato's become Christian." And he said, yeah, well, he's found the truth.
Wow.
Um, and my grandfather was not a believer, even though he was a Jungian psychoanalyst. So he had interest in, how people come to believe things and how they integrate their personality and how they become whole in lots of ways. So Christianity is obviously quite important as a thing that helps people integrate. And I just thought that was a very good way of understanding what the truth is,
Yeah.
because it doesn't mean it's what's true. It's a thing that has an effect, as you were just talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And the effect is to give you belief and give you a sort of unifying experience, and that's religion. That's either Christianity or whatever, any
Yeah.
cult in a way, and it's the truth. And of course, if I'm an atheist, and I'm pretty sure I'll always be one, and I would say, therefore, I don't think I'll ever know the truth,
Yeah.
in the sense that I do associate the truth with Christ. I am the way, the truth, the light. This is an incredible trio, very, very powerful. What incredible rhetoric that is, to say that I am the way, the truth, the light. And if somebody finds themselves through that rhetoric, yeah, that's going to be really strong, very overwhelming. So I'll always be a seeker. I'll always be a
Yeah.
doubter, and I will always not knowing the truth. Actually,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's good. Now, I'm gonna react to that, what you just said, but I wanna tell you one thing. In prepping this, Zappa lecture, Moon Zappa, his daughter just put an article in Newsweek that's really amazing because it
yeah,
starts with some graffiti she saw, and it said, "Not all cults are bad."
mm,
And, and when you said cult, it reminded me of that because then I investigated because, cult comes from cultivate, which means
yeah.
to grow. And we've demonized cults. And of course, then I found Mallarmé said music is the most inclusive and best cult,
Yeah,
which I thought was funny because it's sort of like a wonky translation of his French, maybe, but I went along with it because it sound good. Here's the Bunwell, Finn,
mm,
99%. I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. 99% go, "Oh, that's right. I love that." And one guy finally says, "No, that's bullshit." Because if I'm gonna seek something, it's because I want to find it. So I
mm,
molded into this question.
mm.
The journey is more important than the destination. Why do we have to name or seek a destination? I mean, didn't Joyce in Hemingway and all those people in Paris in the 20s, weren't they flaneurs and they just wandered aimlessly and then had an epiphany in everydayness? So do we have to have that? Everybody goes, no, you have to have a focus or a destination. But
Mm.
more important. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I do. I think you do have to have a focus. You do have to have a destination.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that contradicts the values that Buñuel is talking about, because the destination is still there even if you don't arrive at it.
Yeah.
But when it comes back to Joyce, he's a novelist,
Yeah.
or he's a writer of fiction, or he's a
Yeah.
writer. Now, just imagine if he hadn't finished Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
Now, I know we like to say it's an unfinished work because it ends halfway through a sentence,
Yeah.
but that's not true. It ends very clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really obviously ending.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful aria. It's
Yeah.
a it's a death song, and it's somebody dying out with the most beautiful final sentence. It's actually quite sentimental
Yeah.
as an ending. It's like Dido's lament. It's and but it's ended now. Thank God he finished it. I know I just invoked God weirdly, but I'm so I'm so glad that he finished it, because now we can look at this thing and think,
Yeah.
yeah, this is an object which
Yes.
which even if it could have been different, even if he might have
Yeah.
tinkered with it, he
Yeah.
brought he closed the curtains and
He
he
did.
said, "It's done. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give it a title and I'm
Yeah.
gonna set it out there." So many great works of art don't get to that point,
Yeah.
or great works of philosophy, of course, and they're huge, ambitious things. They dream up vast things, the cantos, or
Yeah.
so many. The Book of Heroic Failures is a very long book, and yeah. So therefore, the destination absolutely can matter, because also endless process
Yeah.
is actually um, unvarying. It needs you need to be able to stop. You need to be able to say that I've finished,
Yeah.
as part of the diversity of experience. In fact, experience just flowing along, always in process. But you want to have the other experience too, which is of finality and completion and ending, and in order to start again into the bliss of oceanic process and etc. Yeah,
The ocean is the ultimate solution, is what Zappa said, and it took me 40 years to go, "Oh, solution means water." I
yeah,
just thought it was a cute title, but
yeah.
is it true that Joyce was gonna write a book about the ocean after the wake?
So there's a rumor of that, and I don't think it's substantiated.
Right, okay.
I have looked into it a lot,
Yeah,
and there's one person who is the source of the rumor,
yeah,
and it's a French critic called Louis Gillet,
yeah,
uh, who was quite close to Joyce and claimed that he went to see him in Brittany
yeah,
when around the time when war began,
yeah,
and Louis Gillet wrote a rather lyrical kind of memoir moment quite a
yeah.
bit later, saying, "I walked with him by the sea. Now he's by the sea, and he's dreaming of his book about the ocean." And it just looks a little bit like this is my
Yeah,
nice, neat fantasy.
right.
Um, and that Joyce actually also, I think, expressed to someone that he wanted to write a book about the Greek Revolution.
Yeah,
Um, and I found notes that he'd taken from an article magazine, um, Life magazine, I think it was.
wow,
And so this was after the wake came out. He carried on taking notes for the next project.
wow.
And I sourced the notes, which I was very excited by. And it was the October 1939 magazine of Life magazine, which was available in Paris. Um, and he took notes on depth charges that boats were using to identify whether there were mines
Yeah,
in the sea. Now, it's perfect material in a way for the book about the ocean, but also just for the impact of war and the idea of a hidden depth.
yeah,
I mean, it's just beautiful.
yeah. It sounds like your great word, absorption of Stanley Kubrick. Like, that dude was so absorbed. You get an 8-hour phone call with him, but he, this constantly gathering to make something. Like, you're on duty every second. You're always
Mm,
thinking. And do
yeah.
you know how to chill out, dude? Chill out and relax. But these guys are like tick, 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 tick. So here we go, Finn. What's the difference between art and science?
Mm, 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 mm. Science is knowledge, and art is skill.
Yeah. Wow.
So art is um, making things, um, and science is the result of sort of exploring things and then coming up with some knowledge. That's very crude, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive things at all. Um, I think sciences require arts in terms of skills,
Yeah.
and art requires science in terms of knowledge.
Couple really good because I like people go, there is no difference. It's like,
Uh,
no, your dad was more a scientist and you're more an artist, but in a
well,
way, you're a scientist of language and he was an artist of that. So yeah,
definitely.
a couple quotes. I'm curious your reactions. One, Jean Cocteau, art is science made clear.
Huh. Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think art is a sort of making, is a doing. And
Yeah,
actually, when you're making and doing, you don't always know what you're doing. And you're often absorbed in the doing and the making. So it's not clear. I don't think it's clear. I know he's talking about something different.
yeah,
He's using different definitions of the terms. Um, I suppose you could say that art in Cocteau's world, they are they're forms of knowledge for him. They're representations, they're pictures, they're films or something, and he thinks they communicate a clearer truth than science does. And I think that's fair. I think that
yeah,
has a point because sometimes science communicates what it knows. Traditional science, that is, it communicates what it knows so badly, so so incompetently that we all doze off, we all fall asleep, and then somebody it takes somebody else to come along and explain in a way what the knowledge is that science has helped produce. So Cocteau was an aesthete who would think that art expressed the human condition much better than science can. But
yeah.
we've got different definitions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's McLuhan and Pound said the word needle the subnabulism. So when
Oh,
that sleep, how to needle that. Here's
yeah.
McLuhan at 69. For James Joyce has solved numerous problems which science has not yet formulated as problems.
Mm, mm, yeah. I, d- I don't know. I think the sort of the way he's talking about art and science there, or Finnegan or Joyce and science, they're just working in different sorts of fields, really.
Yeah.
I suppose that's what he's saying, but it sounds like they're a competition. He's sort of trying to show disrespect to science and try and big up Joyce by saying Joyce is ahead. Joyce has worked out all these problems science hasn't even worked out yet. And I
That
just think
is good.
it's not a competition, you know.
Yeah.
It's just people are just doing different things,
Yes.
and you don't need to say, yeah, you don't say, oh, we're better than you because we've worked out this. I just
Look at Finn, you give McLuhan because that's exactly he goes, if you don't like those ideas, I got some others.
got some others.
He that's why he's chalked off as a charlatan. You know,
Mm,
he's chalked up because he's just making probes when he's in the academic world and you're supposed to make theories. Because if you look up in Wikipedia, because you talk about determinism, he's sometimes thought of as being a technological determinist. And
yes, yes.
he's really no, the telegraph caused the Civil War and radio caused
Yeah.
World War II. Like, no, Hitler caused World War II. No, but he was saying the tools caused these,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they
Technological
say he was a light
mm,
technological determinist. He was doing technological determinism with Menippean satire. Like
right.
you don't mix the two. So here's another one because I'm curious and I appreciate because you know how to read between the lines. What Marshall was about was how do you understand the hidden psychic effects? It's easier in normal terms, they call it unintended consequences. See, you want to be communicative in your book. You want
Mm,
your reader to communicate. He wanted the reader to more go, "What the fuck is this?" To really so that it's
Yeah.
risky.
Yeah.
He gets chalked up. So here's
Yeah.
McLuhan, another one. When we push the paradigms back, we get history. When we push them forward, we get science. So again, is he doing that thing saying, science and history? Is he
Yeah.
trying to create a binary,
Yes, he is. He is. Yeah. When we push the paradigms back, we get science. When we push them forward, we get history. What was it
Yeah.
the other way around?
No, it's when we push the paradigms back, we get history.
Yeah.
When we push them forward, we get science.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I
That
mean, there is that world in which people see history as bunk.
Yeah,
Was it who said that? Was it
it's Henry Ford.
Henry Ford said history is bunk?
Yeah,
And he was an engineer slash businessman
yeah,
who only cared about the profit margin on the for the next year.
yeah,
Um,
and he helped
and
finance Hitler.
he also exactly and the protocols for the elders of Zion.
Whoa!
He financed its
Yeah,
publication.
yeah,
Nasty piece of work.
yeah, nasty.
Nasty,
Okay,
nasty piece of work.
but
But
let's
but the history as bunk idea is quite interesting, I think.
yeah, no, it is.
And I was fed it when I was little by my big brother. He was telling me that history is bunk, and
Wow.
he was going off into science and maths and stuff, and he just said, you know, the past doesn't matter, and also if you try and tell a story about it, it's going to be a fiction.
Yeah.
So I kind of learnt skepticism about history then, which I completely went into revolt against, and I become obsessed with historical
That
narratives.
is amazing because your dad raised you, then he made you be skeptical, and then you found your own. But,
Yeah,
that's what you said was also earlier was I.F. Stone, like the godhead of a liberal press in America. He said, "The truth as I see it." So
right.
that's, it is that. But
Sorry, who's
but
the Eye of Stone? You just said the Eye of Stone.
I.F. Stone is a big influence to American journalists.
Okay,
He actually wrote great political papers without having advertising tell him what to write. So
okay.
he's an important writer. But
Contemporary. Sorry.
let's we're going to go into the history thing in a second. But I want to go back to the problem with McLuhan was it also was Tony Conrad, a great uh, experimental musician, and he founded Velvet Underground with Lou
Well,
Reed. He
yeah.
said artists make rules that haven't been made. No, artists break rules that haven't even been made yet.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like that. That
Mm,
so here's Chomsky on
mm.
science. Let's kind of have a through line, not go on too many tangents. Please excuse me.
It's stimulating. It's great.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Chomsky says we learn more about ourselves from literature than from science.
Mm. Well, I think he's right there,
Yeah,
personally.
yeah,
Personally, but that's because I've read a lot and I love reading, and I love reading
yeah,
about these characters from Alyosha in Brothers Karamazov to Pierre in War and Peace
yeah,
to Julian in the Rouge et Noir and Aschenbach in the Death in Venice. Sorry, they're all men. I'm sorry about that. I can't help that. I'll say Madame Bovary. I'll say Anna Karenina. These are all the 19th century novel. The characters of Shakespeare's plays. Fucking hell, they're like living people. They're
yeah.
so they tell us so much about the world we live in. I mean,
That's amazing.
it's so true. Um, and yeah, I
A
mean,
smaller way, everything ends up in a book.
yeah,
It is, you have
yeah.
books behind you. Okay, here's the biggie though, because it is kind of what you're talking about right now. So we're doing this project on archiving. The word archive,
Mm,
1400s, keep safe, free from harm. 200 years later, record preserved as evidence. That's what we sort of know as an archive. But
Yeah.
here's Charles Baudelaire. If you uh, make a statement long, deep, and rich, it will age very fast. If you try to own the day you're talking, it will last forever. Now,
Nice.
this is like what I learned studying Eastern philosophy. Be here now. Ram
Yeah.
Dass, live in the moment. David Lee Roth kind of resonated with it. He says, "Here today, gone later today." But this is the Joycean, binary Wyndham Lewis. Artists live in the present
Mm,
and write a detailed history of the
mm,
future.
mm.
So the two questions
Mm.
are, and I'll set up a little more, are um, is archiving more innate or more invented? And do you have plans for your own archive? But this is like, why did the Egyptians put stuff in their coffin with them? And
Yeah.
is it, the futurist, who I think the futurist kind of influenced Joyce, or he knew about him,
Yeah.
say, destroy all libraries and museums. Now, I go to the library every day, but I love the fact that the futurist said that.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that trying to live in the moment, to consciously breathe, is the most important thing. We don't consciously breathe. We go about on automatic pilot. So isn't the point of life to live in the moment? Why do we have to collect all this shit?
Yeah. Jerry, that was the most incredible um, series of observations and points there. I can't begin to take all of that in. Oh
Well,
my
I mean,
God.
here's even no, because words so well. Archon, Archon, comes from archive.
Yeah.
The first ruler, the chief magistrate. It's Greek town hall,
Yeah.
public building. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
George Lucas just took all his money or tons of it, and started the Museum of Narrative Art at USC in LA. And it's
Did
like a
he?
gazillion dollar in it, but it's not the Museum of Film, it's a Museum of Narrative Art. There's going to be a lot of printed matter in there, not just films and videos.
Sorry, is
So
this a new thing he's set up?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just opening soon, or it's open. But
Oh,
it
so
is,
exciting.
you've been able to study Joyce because of archives. But
Yes.
is this more innate and more invented in humans to archive?
Hmm. We're archives have their origins in money.
Wow, no one
Um,
says that.
yeah, no, they do because you have to keep records of who spent what, and
Wait, you said it there. You have to. I always say there's no have tos, Finn. Who
yeah.
invented the have to there?
Oh, the people who are making the money, and they want to know how it's been spent, and they want to know who spent it, and they want to know who. I mean, writing as well originates in keeping records.
But you're implying that have
Writing. The beginning of the archive is the beginning of writing.
but you're implying a have to is it's invented or innate. Did
Oh
did
well, no,
you
it's invented, and
it is invented,
it is
yeah.
invented totally, but you have to because it's a consequence of the will to power. And the will to power is a natural thing in humans, and the will to power, wants to acquire more power through goods, through territory, through people, and you have to have a record of all of those goods and money and people that you've acquired, and slaves, and using clay tablets and funny sticks to indicate how many people you've got working for you, how many slaves you've got, how much oil you've got, how much wine you've got, and then you need to store that. You need somewhere to keep it, and it has to be dry and it has to be safe. And you've got a library, you've got a filing cabinet in 5000 BC, and and then the technology of record keeping becomes a technology of inscription and writing, and the stories that people tell each other become written down. Language emerges out of numerical symbols, and you start being able to tell stories, and then the archive grows, because priests begin to blah blah blah. I could go on.
Ah, but no, that's good. Blah blah blah.
This
Well,
is like the history of the
I,
world.
I
This is
got
the
the
history.
I got the great Fid Fordham to go blah blah blah. That's the best part of the whole thing. That he started talking Finneganese. That's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
but you got to hear this one. Andrew McLuhan, Marshall's grandson, was held in his hand as a baby, and Marshall had gone. He couldn't talk anymore. He had a stroke. And all he could do is go blah blah blah. And I says, dude, you got to talk Finneganese with the
Yeah,
guy who broke the
yeah,
Finneganese code. You were going blah 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 blah
yeah,
blah.
yeah. Well, that's
But it is you're implying though, Finn, or you let me clarify that archiving may be innate, but the will to power is no.
so.
Archiving may be invented, but
Yeah,
the will to power is innate, and you
yeah.
can't separate the two. You mean in they're
You can
inter
separate the two. You can separate the two. So the will to power is innate. It's across all animal um, forms,
yeah.
and um, and then there are, our strange brains have evolved in such a way as to kind of turbocharge the use of technologies, which are at the service of the will to power. And so writing is a language, are technologies that get caught up in the drive to power. And so yeah, our archives just become part of that technology, of I mean, unfortunately, of ownership and propriety, and yeah, appropriation and theft and sale, and yeah, yeah.
Well, do you have plans for your own archive? Like if you die tomorrow, does your wife and kids know what to do with all your stuff?
It's funny, isn't it? Because I wonder about that, because I've got lots of papers and lots of projects that didn't go anywhere, and I've got them in the filing cabinet, and it's quite well organized. But I think, there are drawers that I've never opened, full of stuff, even though that's quite organized. And I just think, um, it's just going to be a burden for someone to have to look after this and to make the decision of throwing it away or not.
Right,
And
so you haven't made the plans, but so don't you have a university that would value your archive?
no, I wish. I wish. No, they don't give a shit. Excuse me, but
Really?
Bless you, Royal Holloway. You're a lovely university, but I know you've got limits, and
Well, what
they
about
you know.
isn't there some Joyce archives that would take it?
I don't know. It's a sweet question, but in a way, I think actually the archive is um, a status symbol. It's a sign of a powerful, wealthy, rich civilization that it keeps records of its own stuff,
It's total. Yeah.
and it's quite a shrewd thing to do, because actually identities run the past and the past. Um, I just going to digress momentarily around this
Yes.
topic, because I remember a discussion between my dad and my literature professor at Cambridge. He came for dinner, and there was a little pamphlet produced by the college that I was at in Cambridge. And it was one of these things, it was called the Record, Trinity Record. And it listed all the donors, and it listed the people who were in the boat race, and it listed the people who'd got degrees, and it was all this kind of stuff. And it was really boring. And my dad said, "What is this? Why do we have to have this? Isn't this shit? Isn't it a waste of money?" And the literature professor said, "No, all institutions rely on records of their near and distant past to survive. And so these were completely opposite sides. In a way, my dad was being the history as bunk person, and my literature professor, not very surprisingly, was being, you've got to preserve the past. But he was doing it, he was saying it from a sort of pragmatic point of view, which is that institutions rely on their records in order to have a sense of themselves.
Yeah.
So it feels like a vain question. It's
It is totally, no one's taking it there. Finn, I've been started asking this question because my friend started the film 2 years ago, and we really got deep into archive. You know,
very
I got lucky. I collected my interviews on audio cassettes, and I got them in this big college building with cement and, what do you call that? Climate control, and it's like,
yeah,
"Who the fuck did my shit get in there?" And people like, "What the fuck? How," and you know how I got it? Because Norman Mailer, I read many years ago, sold his archives for $1 million. I says, "Dude, if he can get $1 million, I should at least get $100 for mine."
nice, nice.
And
That's
now
right.
it isn't, it's a pay to play thing. I
Yeah,
kind of make contributions, and
yeah,
it's mainly because then I gets boxes of crap out of my house so my wife doesn't complain.
yeah.
Get this shit out of here. That's what most people like. They tell me they throw their archives out, and I goes, "Don't do that. Don't
No, no, I
masters out."
agree.
The beauty was you saw the difference between your dad and the lit prof to illustrate that. And there was one McLuhan line that, oh, now I lost it. But anyways, that was good because we know that it's valuable in
Yeah,
in in studying the past.
yeah,
But it is like, well, if the point of life is to live in the present, in there, to me, there's nothing more than living in the present than when I'm reading Finnegan's Wake with a group of people, because
yes.
I'm looking at how they pronounce the
Mm,
word.
mm, yeah.
I'm really bad. I'm a idiot. I grew up in front of a TV, and people go, "You run a reading club? You can't even read." You know,
Oh, bastards. Excuse
and
me, the
I
TV's all right.
yeah,
I grew up with the TV on all the time.
but you learn to read. I mean, literally, I can read about reading and
Yeah,
then sound like I'm smart. And then I can talk about things. I haven't read, except for The Wake.
right,
I mean, I might have read like Catcher in the Rye and
right.
Confederacy
Yeah,
Dunce, like two,
right.
like you would love this. My other book club that I want to start is Mad Magazine,
Yeah,
snappy answers to stupid questions.
yes,
It's like
yes.
a great book. But I asked for 90 minutes. We're almost there. And I hope you will do a part 3. It can be like 3, 4, 5 months down the road, but it's
Well,
really been fun. But one thing I read, you really have this great what is it? Something Charlie, Simply Charlie interview online.
oh yeah,
That's a good interview,
forgotten
and
about
you
that.
you love the, Nabokov, or however you
Yeah,
pronounce his last name, quote, when he wrote a letter to his wife in
yeah,
'36,
yeah.
and here's what he says: "Wit sets behind reason, and while it is setting, the sky is marvelous, but then it's night." Now,
Mm,
this is Nabokov referencing or talking about the wake or the pre-wake.
wow.
I
So I'm
mean,
just having, yeah. It's before the wakes come out.
it's before
Um,
the wake comes out.
yeah. So he's reading work in progress.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing you say. As for translations, Joyce is said to have remarked somewhere, and I hope I'm not making it up, that everything can be translated.
Yeah,
And so you're talking about, can the Chinese version of, I mean, for 29 years, we've had people come to our wake group and it goes, "Oh, here's the French copy of the wake, or here's the
yeah.
Italian copy." I says, "You can't translate this." Well, no, you can. You
You
can
can.
try to, Good
Yeah,
luck.
yeah, yeah. You really can. And Joyce supported people, not surprisingly, because
Right,
he wanted the word to be spread.
right.
But and he had quite a liberal attitude to translation. Like, you know, if Beckett helped translate bits of it,
Yeah,
and um, he was Beckett was shocked by the attitude to translation that Joyce had, because it was very free. It
yeah,
was just, yeah, chuck that in. Why not? Just
yeah,
do that. It's like he's not that bothered about precise effects,
yeah,
which makes some of our reading group types of approaches more precise, actually, than the way a translator does things. But I know this Dutch pair of translators. Do you know? Have you talked to them? They'd be wonderful on your thing. The Robert Jan Henks and Eric Bindervert. You
no,
should you
hook
should
me up.
interview them. You should
Yeah,
interview them. They're beautiful people, and
and what country is it?
so they're in Holland.
Oh, Holland. Yeah, please hook me up. I'd love to because I
Yeah,
just interviewed the guy who translated in Russia.
right. Did you? I'd love to see
Yeah.
that.
No, that was like 2 weeks ago. It was amazing because someone said, "Dude, we never got into politics." He says, "If you would have, they probably would have came and got them." I was like, it wasn't a choice. We just talked.
No, yeah,
I thought it was amazing. But
I'd love
anyway,
to see that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
it's on the
so
channel. Yeah,
he does the first word, River Rhine. So, you know, Rhine in Dutch is clear,
yeah,
and obviously the River Rhine runs through Europe and eventually runs out, I think, near
yeah,
Amsterdam or somewhere. And so it's a pun at the very beginning,
yeah,
because river is the same, but it's not river run. It's not. They've not translated the word run. They've created some other thing, riverine, and they've got this beautiful word that sounds like river run. So yeah, it can be done.
yeah. But what is that in just can you just kind of translate what Nabokov's saying? Because I didn't quite get it. He says wit sets behind reason.
Yeah,
So being witty is behind reason while it is setting the sky is marvelous. Well, what's
yeah.
the it there? And then but
Wit.
then
Yeah,
it's night.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. So imagine a sunset, and wit is the sun, and reason is the mountain or reason or the landscape.
yeah,
And while it's setting, you can see everything, and the sky
yeah,
is beautiful as it's setting. And then wit goes away,
yeah,
and it becomes dark, and there's nothing more to see.
yeah,
And it seems as though he's describing an experience of reading in which every so often you see the sunset of wit disappearing. Of, if you like, wit is cleverness, is intelligence, is spirit. Wit is a very interesting word, actually. Like in Shakespeare, it means all sorts of very interesting things. It's cleverness, it's funniness, it's spirit, it's anyway. And reason, obviously, is rationality, is order, is
yeah,
truth, is the logos. But the two can work together, and the wit is the sunlight that can show the landscape of reason in a way like art can show the value of science.
yeah,
Um, and while it's setting, it's at its most beautiful. So it's like just as it's disappearing, that's when it's most beautiful, which is like what Shelley said about the creative moment, which is that it, and this is what Joyce quote quite often, which is that the mind in creation is like a fading coal, a coal on a fire, embers, bright embers, but fading. So it's the same here. The wit is setting behind reason, and
yeah,
then it's night. And the experience of reading is every so often you see these flashes of beautiful light, like a sunset, and then it's gone. And so you're reading Finnegan's Wake, and you move from those flashes to experience of kind of a darkness, a sort of, Nabokov also called it a dull mass of phony folklore. Um,
Who said that one?
Nabokov about
Oh,
Finnegan's Wake.
he that is great.
He said worse, a cold pudding of a book. Bastard.
But I mean, it's heavy because you touch on so much that just metaphorically, like that is what we do with everything. Is we sit around a campfire, and it keep the home fires burning, the
Yeah,
warmth of other humans sharing. I always said,
yeah.
my Wake group, I says, it doesn't matter if we're reading Finnegan's Wake. We could be reading People magazine. It's the same difference. Finnegan's Wake is People magazine. And everybody, you know, and that's why
Well,
this big
and
movie.
Olivia reads People magazine on page 28, 29.
There you
It's
go.
it's
See,
this, but it's called This Evening's World.
I rest my case because in Peter Quadrino's Pantheon, he lists Bree, who's
Yeah,
this, she's a huge movie star, everything, Wonder Woman, and
yeah.
they go ask her in People, what are you doing now? She goes, reading Finnegan's Wake. It's like that's
Yay!
perfect to
Woo!
get kids to go. Well, if she's reading it, I better look into it.
Yeah.
But there were two things, really quick, and then we'll end, Finn. Thank you. Um, the McLuhan thing I wanted to say was that my friend says if Marshall had a website, he wouldn't tell people the URL. Like, that he would purposely, you can't find it. Because I looked on your X thing and it was amazing. It's really a delight to learn about someone through what they put on their X page. But you said the word pun, and I'm probably already said this. Here's Marshall's greatest line about Joyce, I think, and he has many. Joyce uses the pun as a way of seeing the paradoxical exuberance of being through language.
The paradoxical exuberance, did you
Of
say?
being. Yeah, the paradoxical exuberance. There's a lot packed in there, like paradox, embracing contradiction, exuberance of being through language.
Yeah. That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah. So closing out, thank you for going a little over. And this is, I'll ask you in part 4, 5, or 6 at the end, but I had to ask you to close this one out. How has Joyce reading the Wake, your studies of Joyce in the Wake, shaped your behavior?
Shape my behavior?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god, has it shaped my behavior? I drank a
There
lot
you
of
go. Oh
Guinness.
my God, again.
I drank a lot of Guinness when I was doing my PhD.
That is,
How's that?
that is that
That'll
is
be my
really,
answer.
that's because the end of your sub Charlie, it says, yeah, if you don't go for the Wake, if you're in a pub and you don't like it, you don't like the Wake, you can order a drink and read the paper. That is a great line. Like, just read the paper. But Finn, there's a hidden there. McLuhan said that you can't write the great American novel because the front page of the newspaper is the great American novel. So we don't
Mm,
have to write it anymore. So that's
mm,
it. Finnegan's Wake is the front page of the newspaper, and it is the great American novel.
yeah, yeah. I'll reserve judgment on that one. I think they're very different. Yeah.
Well, you gotta you are being counterculturally correct throughout because you are a wise human. Don't fall for my bullshit.
Well,
Thank you
if
so
I
much.
have fallen for it, it's been a wonderful experience, Jerry.
Thank you so much, Finn. I learned so much, and you
Oh,
really get what I'm
you're very
after.
kind and incredibly stimulating.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna hit the end broadcast button. But like I say at every podcast, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Wonderful. See you again soon, Jerry. Bye.
Thank you.